Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into something kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's million dollar one person businesses.
It's a really interesting topic.
It is. We're
Yeah.
talking about people hitting that like seven-figure mark, but without, needing to build these massive teams or chase after, those big VC funds.
Yeah, it really challenges what people think of as success, in business.
Totally. And our guide for this whole deep dive is Elaine Pofeldt's book, The Million Dollar One Person Business. It's got a ton of stories and advice from entrepreneurs who've like figured this whole thing out.
Yeah, and what I think is so interesting is that this isn't just people selling, crafts or whatever on Etsy.
Right.
This is people in tech and finance and all sorts of industries.
Yeah, and I think what's so appealing about this is that freedom,
Yeah.
like you're not answering to investors or a board.
Right.
You can really like build a business that really reflects what you want and how you want to live.
Definitely. And Pofeldt actually says that this is like becoming a better path to success in a lot of ways.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because of all the new tech and the gig economy and all of that, it's easier than ever to outsource and automate things and reach customers all over the world without needing a ton of employees.
So you're saying it's like actually easier now to do this than it used to be?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of these stories.
Okay.
I know you mentioned this guy who's making millions selling inspirational planners.
Oh, yeah, Laszlo Nadler.
Yeah, what's his deal?
Well, he runs Tools for Wisdom, and get this, he runs it from his house.
No way.
Yeah, in New Jersey.
Wow.
And he's on track to make like over $2 million this year.
What?
Yeah, and his only employee is his wife, and she just helps out with shipping part-time.
So he's basically doing this all on his own.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. What's his secret?
Well, first of all, he just really loves his product.
Okay.
He really believes in planning and how it can help people.
Makes sense.
And, that passion shows in the product and in his brand.
Okay, but passion alone doesn't make millions, right?
Wait, of course not.
So what else is he doing?
Well, he's really good at using his resources.
Okay.
He outsources all the printing and shipping and stuff.
Ah, so we can focus on other things.
Exactly. Like designing new products and marketing and talking to customers.
So he's not trying to do everything himself.
Right.
He's like building a team, even though he doesn't have employees.
Yeah. Kind of a virtual team.
I like that.
And that's like a key takeaway, I think.
What's that?
If you want to build a $1 million business on your own, you have to get comfortable with delegating and outsourcing.
You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah. Mm.
You'll burn out for sure.
So it's like working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
But before you even get to that point, you need a good business idea, right?
Oh, definitely.
I know Pofeldt talks a lot about finding your niche.
Yeah, and she really says it can't just be about, finding a market gap.
Yeah.
It has to be something you're really into,
Yeah.
something you could see yourself doing for years. Yeah, that makes sense. But how do you find that perfect spot? Like where your passion and something profitable come together?
Well, she has some pretty cool examples in the book.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's this guy who's made $1 million business selling stuff for origami.
Really?
Yeah. And there's another guy who sells like high-end muck boots.
Muck boots.
Yeah.
Like for gardening and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And someone else who makes a fortune selling those little flags you put on your mail docs.
It's amazing. It seems like the possibilities are kind of endless.
I think so, yeah.
So what do these people all have in common? What makes them successful?
I think they've all found a specific need or desire that wasn't being met by like the bigger companies.
So they're super focused on a specific group of people,
Right.
and the internet has made that easier than ever.
Definitely. It's never been easier to connect with people who share your interests.
So let's say you've found your niche and you're starting to get some sales.
Okay.
How do you start thinking about getting to that $1 million level?
Well, one of the biggest things, especially for service businesses, is pricing.
Okay.
Pofeldt talks a lot about charging what you're worth.
Oh, premium pricing.
Yeah.
I can see why that's hard for people.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting out,
It can feel scary to raise your prices.
definitely. But she says it's often the only way to actually make more money.
You can't just work more hours forever.
Exactly. You hit a wall eventually.
So how do you actually do it? How do you convince people to pay more?
It's about showing your value and your expertise
Okay.
and building a brand that feels high quality.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So there's this financial advisor in the book named Corey Binsfield,
Okay.
and he noticed that a lot of his clients had rental income.
Okay.
So he decided to invest in some rental properties himself.
Interesting.
And he outsourced all the management of it so he could still focus on his clients.
So he was kind of practicing what he preached.
Exactly. He was showing his clients that he understood their needs.
And that he knew what he was talking about.
Right. And because of that, he could charge more for his
That's
services.
smart.
Yeah. And now he makes $1 million a year from both his services and the rental income.
Wow. So you're saying you don't have to just have one way of making money.
Definitely, you can have lots of different income streams.
I like that.
And that helps make your business more stable.
Okay, so we've got finding your niche, we've got pricing strategically,
Yeah.
but none of that matters if you don't have the money to get started right.
Oh, right, for sure.
And that's where things can get tricky. I think it's
Yeah.
not always easy for solopreneurs to get funding,
Definitely not traditional funding anyway.
right? Like bank loans and things.
Yeah, those are tough to get.
So what are the options? How do you actually get the money to start a $1 million business when you're on your own?
Well, Pofeldt talks about four main ways.
Okay.
Side hustling,
Okay.
savings,
Okay.
investment,
Uh-huh.
and loans.
Okay. Let's start with side hustling. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the most common one.
Probably. Yeah. It's like the classic keep your day job while you build your dream thing.
Right.
And it's good because you can test your idea without too much risk.
Does she have an example of someone who did that?
Oh, yeah. There's Kelly Lester.
Okay.
She started Easy Lunchboxes.
Okay. I've heard of those.
Yeah. And she started it while she was still working full time.
Wow.
And she used her husband's income to help out while she was getting things going.
So she was really careful with her money.
Yeah. And she grew the business slowly and reinvested her profits.
That's inspiring.
It shows you don't need a ton of money to get started.
You just need a good idea and a lot of hard work.
Yeah. And a willingness to hustle, for sure.
Okay, so what about savings? Is that a good idea?
It can be, yeah. If you have enough to cover your expenses for a while.
Okay.
There's this guy, Matt Friel, in the book. He owns Game Deal Daily.
Okay.
And he sold video games online while he was living with his parents to keep his costs down.
So he could put more money into the business.
Right. But the book does say you shouldn't drain your savings completely.
Yeah, you need some backup.
Definitely. You never know what might happen.
Okay, so what about investment? Is that only for people who know venture capitalists?
Not necessarily. It's true that venture capitalists usually want to invest in companies that are growing super fast.
Right.
But there are other options.
Like what?
Well, there's this guy, Paul Hedrick, in the book.
Okay.
He started a cowboy boot company called Tecovas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he raised money from angel investors.
People he already knew.
Yeah, from his previous businesses.
Ah, I see.
But the book also talks about borrowing from friends and family
Oh, yeah, I like that.
or selling them a part of the business.
So it's all about who you know.
Kind of, yeah. It's about building relationships with people who believe in you.
Makes sense, but it seems risky.
It can be, yeah. You have to be careful and make sure everyone understands what they're getting into.
Okay, and finally there's loans. Is that a good idea for a one-person business?
It depends, I think, on your situation and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Okay.
There's this guy, Jonathan Johnson. In the book, he has a web design business.
Okay.
And he used a small business loan to get started.
Okay.
But the book really stresses that you shouldn't take on too much debt.
It can be really stressful.
Yeah, and it's better to focus on making money and growing slowly and sustainably.
That makes sense. So let's talk about that. How do you make sure you have enough cash coming in, especially when you're just starting out?
That's a great question, and it leads us to a really important part of the book.
Okay, but before we get into that, I think we need to take a quick break.
Oh, okay.
We'll be right back with more insights from the $1 Million One-Person Business. All right, so we're back, and I'm ready to get into more of these strategies for building a $1 million business all on your own.
Me too.
Before the break, we were talking about different ways to get funding and how important it is to have good cash flow.
Right, and one thing that Pofeldt really emphasizes is that good cash flow isn't just about, how much money is coming in. It's also about how you manage that money.
So it's not just about making money, it's about, being smart with it.
Exactly.
So what are some practical tips for managing cash flow? Especially when you're first starting out and money is tight.
Well, one of the most important things is to track your income and expenses really carefully.
Like just knowing where your money is going.
Yeah, you need to know exactly how much you're making and how much you're spending.
Okay, that makes sense, but it sounds kind of boring.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting part of running a business.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are more creative types,
Definitely a lot of them aren't that interested in the financial side of things.
Right, but Pofeldt says it's really important.
She says it's essential if you want to build a sustainable business.
So do you have to become an accountant or something?
Not really. There are lots of tools and resources to help you out.
Like what?
Well, there are simple things like spreadsheet templates,
Okay.
but there's also really sophisticated accounting software. And of course, you can always hire a professional bookkeeper or accountant.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially as your business gets bigger.
Right, a good accountant can help you stay organized, and they can also give you advice on things like taxes.
So it's worth the investment.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got a handle on managing the money coming in.
Okay.
Now, how about maximizing revenue and actually hitting that $1 million mark?
All right.
What are these solopreneurs doing to make that happen?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is using online marketplaces like Amazon.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that before.
It's a great way to reach more customers and sell more products.
But isn't it kind of risky to rely so much on one platform?
It can be, yeah.
Like, what if Amazon changes its rules or something?
Right. That's definitely a possibility.
It could really hurt your business.
Yeah. Pofeldt acknowledges that there are risks.
But she still thinks it's worth it.
She thinks the potential rewards outweigh the risks, especially for solopreneurs who are just starting out.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, you have to decide what's right for your business.
And it's probably smart to not put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. You should explore other online marketplaces too.
Yeah.
And you should think about building your own website.
Yeah. So you're not completely dependent on Amazon
Right.
and maybe even selling in physical stores, if that makes sense, for your product.
Yeah, why not?
So it's all about having multiple ways to reach your customers.
Exactly.
And speaking of reaching customers, another big strategy is social media marketing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But social media can be so overwhelming.
It can be. Yeah.
There's so much noise.
Right.
How do you actually stand out and get people to notice you?
That's where niche marketing comes in again.
Okay.
You need to figure out where your target audience is hanging out online.
Like which social media platforms they use.
Right, and then you need to create content that's specifically for them.
So you're not just trying to appeal to everyone.
No, you're focusing on the people who are most likely to be interested in what you're selling.
Makes sense.
And Pofeldt really emphasizes the importance of being authentic and transparent on social media.
Oh, yeah. People can tell when you're being fake.
Definitely, they want to connect with real people.
So it's more about building relationships than just selling stuff.
Exactly.
And another way to do that is through influencer marketing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So partnering with people who have a lot of followers.
All right, and getting them to promote your product.
But doesn't that cost a lot of money?
It can, but it doesn't have to.
Okay.
There are lots of micro-influencers out there.
People with smaller followings.
Yeah, but their followers are often really engaged. And they might be willing to work with you for free or for a small fee.
So you don't have to break the bank.
Right.
So it's about finding the right influencers for your brand.
Exactly. People who have an audience that's likely to be interested in what you're selling.
And it's about building real relationships with them.
Definitely don't just treat them like a walking advertisement.
Okay, so we've talked about online marketplaces, social media marketing, influencer marketing.
Yeah.
What else are these million-dollar solopreneurs doing to grow their businesses?
Well, another big one is visual content.
Okay, like pictures and videos.
Exactly. Platforms like Instagram and Pinterest are great for showcasing products.
Yeah, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Right, and videos can really bring your brand to life.
People connect with that.
Definitely.
So what are some tips for creating good visual content?
Well, the first thing is to understand the platform you're using.
Okay.
Like Instagram is all about high-quality photos and short videos,
Right.
and Pinterest is more about aspirational images and DIY projects.
You have to tailor your content to each platform.
Exactly.
And it's also important to be consistent with your branding, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like using the same colors and fonts and stuff.
Right, that way people will recognize your brand no matter where they see it.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got online marketplaces, social media influencer, marketing, visual content.
Mm-hmm.
What about automating things?
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
I feel like there's so much you can automate these days.
There is. You can automate things like email marketing, social media, scheduling, customer service, even bookkeeping.
Wow, seems like there's an app for everything.
Pretty much.
But how do you know where to start?
Well, Pofeldt says you should start by identifying the tasks that are taking up most of your time,
Okay,
and then look for tools that can help you automate or streamline those tasks.
so you're focusing on the areas where automation can have the biggest impact.
Exactly.
And it's important to remember that technology is just a tool.
Right, it's not going to solve all your problems.
You still need a good business strategy.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from financing to marketing to automation.
Yeah,
It seems like there's a lot to think about.
it is.
What should people do if they're feeling overwhelmed?
I think one of the most important things is to just start with the basics.
Like what?
Well, first and foremost, find your niche, figure out what you're passionate about and what problems you can solve for people.
Okay.
Once you have that figured out, you can start working on your marketing plan and figuring out how you're going to get funding.
So it's about taking it one step at a time.
Exactly.
And you don't have to do it alone, right?
Right. There are lots of resources out there to help entrepreneurs.
Like what?
Well, there are online communities and mentorship programs and business incubators.
So it's about finding people who can support you.
Definitely.
And it's also important to be flexible, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Things don't always go according to plan.
Never.
You have to be able to adapt.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical steps involved in building a $1 million business,
Yeah.
but there's also a mental side to it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What are some of the mindset shifts that entrepreneurs need to make?
Well, one of the biggest ones is letting go of the DIY mentality.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that before.
It's about being willing to delegate and outsource, even if it feels uncomfortable at first.
Because you can't do it all yourself.
Right.
And you also have to be okay with not being perfect.
Yeah, as a solopreneur, you're wearing a lot of hats.
You can't be good at everything.
Exactly. So you have to learn to let go of some control and trust other people to help you.
And you have to be okay with failing sometimes.
Yeah, failure is part of the process.
It's about learning from your mistakes.
Exactly.
And Pofeldt talks about having a growth mindset,
Yeah,
like seeing challenges as opportunities to learn
exactly.
and being willing to change course if something isn't working.
Definitely you have to be adaptable.
So it's about being resilient
Uh-huh.
and also about staying true to your vision.
Absolutely. Building a business takes time and effort.
But it sounds like it can be really rewarding.
It can be, yeah, both personally and financially.
And one of the things I love about the stories in this book is that these entrepreneurs aren't just building businesses.
Right.
They're building lives that they love.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point, defining success on your own terms.
Okay, so what does that mean?
It means that success doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
Right.
For some people, success might mean building a huge company.
Yeah.
For others, it might mean having a small business that allows them to spend more time with their family.
Or travel or whatever.
Right. It's about figuring out what's important to you.
And building a business that supports that.
Exactly.
Does she have an example of someone who did that?
Yeah, she talks about Catherine Krug.
Who that?
She invented the better back posture support.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, well, she used Kickstarter to raise money for her idea,
Okay.
and she ended up raising over $1 million.
Wow.
And then she went on Shark Tank.
Oh, cool.
But she actually turned down the investment offer.
Really?
Why? Because she wanted to keep control of her business.
She didn't want to answer to anyone.
She wanted to work on her own terms.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and now she's building a remote team, and she can work from anywhere she wants.
Wow, so she's really living the dream.
She is.
That's inspiring. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
What do you think is the most important takeaway for listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that $1 million one-person business is totally possible.
It's not just a pipe dream.
Right, but it does require a shift in mindset.
Okay.
You have to be willing to embrace technology and outsource and automate, and you have to stay true to your vision even when other people are telling you to do something different.
So listeners, what's resonating with you?
Yeah, what hidden skills or knowledge do you have that you could turn into a business?
What are you passionate about?
What problems have you solved in your own life that you could help other people solve?
The possibilities are endless.
They are.
And remember, it doesn't have to be about building a massive company.
Right.
It's about creating a business that allows you to live a life of freedom and purpose.
That's what it's all about.
So what's your $1 million idea?
Keep exploring and keep learning.
And keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
You never know what you might achieve.
And hey, maybe someday we'll be featuring your story on this show.
That would be amazing.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.
You know, it's really inspiring to see how these solopreneurs are kind of like rewriting the rules of success.
Yeah, they're not playing by the old corporate game.
It's like they're creating this whole new path for themselves.
Yeah, and I think it's especially appealing to people who are looking for more flexibility and control over their lives.
Definitely, like, you can have a successful career without sacrificing your personal life.
Exactly, and that actually brings up something interesting that Pofeldt talks about in the book.
What's that?
Selling your business.
Oh, yeah. Like, even if you start a business you love, your goals might change over time.
Right, exactly. Like maybe you want to retire early or travel the world or just try something new.
Or just like cash in on all your hard work.
Exactly. Selling your business can be a great way to create financial security.
It makes sense, like you've put all this time and energy into building something valuable. Why not leverage that to create new opportunities for yourself?
That's what Pofeldt says.
And did she talk to anyone about like how to actually do that?
Yeah, she actually spoke with David Fairley.
Who's that?
He's an internet business broker.
Oh, so he helps people sell their online businesses.
Exactly. And he had some really interesting insights.
Like what?
One of the first things he emphasized is timing.
Oh yeah, like when is the right time to sell?
Right, because you don't want to wait too long.
Like until your business is struggling.
Right, exactly. Fairley says that one sign it might be time to sell is when you start to lose your passion for the business.
Oh, that makes sense. If you're not excited about it anymore, it's going to show.
Yeah, and it will be harder to find a buyer who's willing to pay top dollar.
So it's better to sell when things are still going well.
Exactly. Sell high, as they say.
And what else did he say?
Well, another important piece of advice is to work with a broker who specializes in selling online businesses.
Okay, so someone who knows the ropes.
Right, they can help you prepare all the necessary documents and market your business effectively.
So you get the best possible price.
Exactly.
But how do you even find a good broker?
Well, that's the great thing about Pofeldt's book.
What's that?
She has a whole appendix with tons of resources.
Websites and stuff.
Yeah, for everything from accounting to marketing to finding freelancers.
And brokers, too.
Yes, she includes resources for finding business brokers as well.
That's awesome. So she's really thought of everything.
She has. It's a really comprehensive guide.
But beyond all the practical tips and resources, I think the most valuable thing about the book is that it really changes your perspective.
I agree. It challenges the traditional idea of what it means to be successful.
And it shows that there's not just one right way to do things.
Exactly. You can create a business that fits your life, not the other way around.
And you can be both financially successful and personally fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And this isn't just some fringe idea. This is a growing trend.
Yeah, more and more people are choosing this path.
And I think it's a really positive development.
I do too.
So if you're feeling inspired by these stories and you want to explore your own entrepreneurial potential,
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out Elaine Pofeldt's book, The $1,000,000 One-Person Business.
It's a great place to start.
And remember, the possibilities are endless.
They are.
Whether you want to sell handmade goods online or build a software empire or start a consulting business.
There are resources out there to help you.
So what are you waiting for?
Take that first step.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll be featuring your story on this show.
That would be great.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the $1,000,000 one-person business.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.